What are you wearing?
A Canadian tuxedo.
Canadian.
I'm a hockey player. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
To all you Blues fans, we're bleeding blue with you.
Let's go Blues. Let's go Blues. Let's go Blues.
BlueNote Fan Report. Aloha, hello everybody. How are you? Justin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. Blues coming off of two good performances over the weekend. But let's see how our guest is doing. How are you doing, Matt?
Oh, well, if you're asking me about the New York Rangers, I'm doing anything other than that. But I am more than happy to be on the show, guys. Thank you so much for having me on. Super excited to be here, and I can't wait to get started.
Oh, no problem, Matt. No problem. Welcome to the BlueNote Fan Report. What do you think of our intro there, bud?
I like it. It's better than what we got. We got Rumpy getting his ass kicked by Johnson. So I mean, it's we're a little different over there, but awesome. You guys have one of the best fan bases in the whole league. One of the most devout fan bases, and happy you guys got that cup in 19 because I think that fan base deserved it.
Yeah,
That's actually funny that you bring that up because I think for the most part, at least for me, what I've seen is the Blues fans have like people don't like us. We're like touted as one of the worst fan bases, which I don't really understand, but I'm glad to see that you don't think so.
No, I got a lot of Blackhawks fans over there, so there's a little animosity there. I got a lot of my friends over on TikTok, they're Blackhawks fans. They told me not to do it, but I said, you know what? I don't buy that. You guys are nice people. Midwest nice, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, so I've actually been a fan of the Blues almost from the beginning. I'm 56 years old. I'll be at 57 here. So I was born during the year of their first year, and I became a fan of the Blues like when I was 6, 7 years old. Right. My grandfather used to take me to games because he was a betting man, and he figured if he took a little kid, he could get him closer to the players, hear what the players had to say, and then go make his bets. But for me, that's how I became a fan of the Blues. So I went through a lot of heartbreak, and I remember the Rangers winning it, and I think it was '94, right? The guarantee,
Yep.
right? And that was like 56 years, right? That they won it.
54. Yeah, 1940 and then 1994. Yep.
Yeah, almost where we were, right? We were, because we had a missed season there.
Right.
The '94 season being, or the 2000, was it the 2004 season that was missed? Yeah. So we had that missed season there, but we were right in that range. So it was a long wait for us to get our first cup, and for me it was actually, I have a live stream. I was doing this show. This is the first year that I did the show, first season, 18-19.
Wow.
And I have a live stream of me watching Game 7.
What a
Well,
game.
and I don't know, I don't know if Guy has got to give you the runaround on this one, but this is kind of a different type of style. He's from St. Louis. This is always, he calls us his home. But the thing that makes this show unique is he's based out of, Guy, if you want to tell him the story behind why this is so important to this show and so unique.
I'm based out of Honolulu, Hawaii.
That's awesome.
Right. I'm retired Navy. retired in 2007 after 20 years. About 10 years later, kind of went through a mental breakdown, and started it about a year after the breakdown. Into the breakdown, I kind of started this as some therapy, right? I started calling it the pregame rant, and it went through a variation of names before I finally settled on the BlueNote Fan Report. And I go by the moniker of the Hawaii Blues fan, and I took that name just before I went to I went and seen the Blues first time they played in Vegas. And I have a couple of jerseys where I had it embroidered on the at Hawaii Blues fan, which was my Twitter handle at the time, embroidered on the back of a couple of jerseys.
That's awesome. I mean, hey, thank you for your service, by the way. That's great.
No problem.
I'm a federal employee in the federal government. I'll just leave it at that. So I appreciate all that and whatnot like that. But that's a great story. I hope that I get to see the Rangers win a Stanley Cup one day. I am born in 1994. They were 3 months. I was 3 months old when they won the Stanley Cup. If we want to go other sports, I am a Mets, Knicks, and Jets fan. Brutal across the board. I'm like 0 for 125 for my lifetime. I have not seen a championship. So we're hoping, and I don't think it's going to be the Rangers anytime soon. Just to be honest.
The Rangers, I can have the love for. At least you're not a Yankees fan. I'll tell you that. At least you're not a Yankees fan. It's a Mets fan. But I can't agree with you on that one either because I'm a Braves fan. So I'm not for the Mets.
That's all right. That's all right. God gives the toughest challenges to the strongest soldiers over here. So, I mean, I must be pretty damn tough. That's what I got to say.
The Braves were a pretty tough watch this year, I will say.
Yeah.
My dream World Series matchup is to see would be Cardinals-Yankees, right?
Cardinals.
Because well, you got to understand, back in the 20s and 30s, and the mid 40s, the Cardinals and the Yankees they were the two best teams in the league, and they had a really, really good rivalry going on, and for me, someone who likes the older style of play and that, to have two, like it'd almost be like Montreal and Toronto in the Stanley Cup final.
So I'm still bitter about Beltran getting caught looking strike 3 in 2006. There's a hole in my old parents' house. I punched a hole in the wall when I was 12 years old after that game.
That was when Taguchi hit that home run, right?
Yeah, I mean that was when Yadier Molina hit where Andy Chavez had that catch in Game 7. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was Scott Rowland that hit that, and then Andy Chavez got the catch. Yadier Molina hit the one that was a home run, and Adam Wainwright, that big freaking curveball right over the plate.
Oh yeah.
Carlos Beltran just looked at it, bases loaded, and that was tough for me at 12 years old.
I mean, hockey has always been my love, and that's what we do here. But I have a different type of love for baseball. But I could get into a whole rant about how I think that there should be a salary cap in baseball. But we're not going to get into that because that's not what we're here for. But that's the one thing that draws me out of baseball. First of all, there's too many games. There's too many games played.
I disagree.
I don't mind it. I mean, I get it. It's a long season, and I don't mind it per se. But for me, it's the salary cap. That's my issue mostly with the MLB. That's why I don't like. That's why I really, really don't like the Dodgers. I don't like the Yankees. I don't like those teams that try to go out there and try to buy. Like I'm an Eagles fan for football, and I don't care for the Phillies.
So it's funny, you could segue that right into the NHL because I actually did a YouTube video about salary cap, about how the NHL could make the salary cap better. Because I was a big fan of LTIR. I mean, I know people don't like what Vegas did, what Florida did, what Tampa did, where they, Mark Stone would only be hurt, come back in April, but I like that a lot. So on the Instigators Hockey Show that I do a podcast every Wednesday, I have Chris Kostopoulos on. He's a former NHL player, played for Toronto, played for the Rangers, played for the Whalers. He thinks there should be no cap in hockey. Play these guys what they're worth. And, I mean, that's where I think it's tricky. I'm more in for of NBA-style NHL cap, where you kind of have a penalty, a luxury tax. You can
Yeah.
go a certain threshold over, and hey, if these owners want to pay to win and have a better product out there, I like that. Now, of course, I'm big market. You guys are kind of more mid to small
Yeah.
market, so it's a little different how I feel on that. But because being in New York, it's such a high tax state, people are avoiding it at all costs. So that's just kind of how I feel on it.
Yeah, I mean, well, you kind of it's a gray area because you run into obviously you're going to always have players that play for certain teams, but you're going to run into the situation where you're going to have like if you didn't have like a cap space, you're going to have a situation where you have like a Dodgers who you know you have all the star players that want to go there because there's no cap to kind of stop that from happening. So then they stack their team. And then if you have that certain situation where you don't have a cap, these teams are these players like the top stars are just going to want to go to one team. Like they're not going to want to go to smaller markets. Not the case for everybody, but
Yeah, I get that.
I see what you're saying. I like the salary cap. What I do. So I do remember the era before the salary cap, right? And I do remember how some of those contracts were coming up and the length of them and the numbers of them. And all of
Kovalchuk,
that.
17 years. Remember that? 17, 102, Kovalchuk, yeah.
So it could get it was getting out of hand quickly, and it was going at some point it was going to cause teams to fold. So the salary cap coming in, and originally when the salary cap came in 2004, one of the biggest problems was, and a lot of people don't remember this or know this, was the players wanted a salary floor and the owners didn't. They were okay with the cap, but they wanted a floor. They wanted a minimum. And that it took a while. It took the owners a while to finally come up with the floor. The one thing that I would like the biggest cap change I'd like to see is a 10% total for your own players, right? Like when you re-sign your own player, 10% of that doesn't count against the cap.
I get behind that.
That way teams can keep their players and pay them a little more. But at the same time, I do think that the balance is 50-50, right? 50% of league revenue to the owner or to the players and 50% of the league revenue to the owners. And what a lot of people think is that the owners are getting that 50%. They're not. They're still the other side of that's got to come out. You know, the trainers, the travel, there's a lot more that's got to come out of that 50%. So there are teams that even at under the cap are not making money, right? So the fact of that, you know, some teams can't keep their players, it's because of that. And you can adjust that by saying, okay, here's this 10% rule where you can oversign your player and you'll start getting that fan base, because that was the biggest thing back in the day of, like, you know, Blues fans knowing Brett Hull was going to stay around, right? Knowing that your stars were going to stay around. And that's what helped build the fan bases. And another thing that the NHL, in my eyes, has really had an issue with is the way the playoffs are. And this is going to surprise you. I don't think it should be 1v8. I hate it. Because I grew up in the 80s when it was, you had, I think it was 20 teams, 16 made the playoffs, 5 or 4 from each division made the playoffs, and they played each other. That's where the rivalry between the Blues and the Blackhawks started, between the Blackhawks and Detroit, between Blues and Detroit. When the North Stars were there, the hatred between St. Louis and Chicago and the North Stars and Detroit, and that's where that rivalry, a lot of these rivalries started, was from these playoff matches of always being in the division. And I'd like to see them. They got back to it somewhat with the 2v3, and I love it. But I wished it would go back more like the COVID playoffs, that when they shortened it and everybody played in their own division. I loved the playoffs that period. And then the thing about the playoffs, when it was like that, The fourth place team could easily make the cup, right?
Yeah,
So
100%. I mean, listen, you stole my thunder here. I mean, I actually had a YouTube video coming up on this, and I actually am totally opposite on you, 100%, because you play in the division right now, the Central, right? I think the Central is far and away the best division in hockey. Colorado's running away with it. Dallas, my preseason pick was Dallas and Tampa. I thought Dallas was a little more well-rounded, a little deeper than Colorado. But Dallas and Colorado are 1-2 in the league, and they're in the same division. Minnesota's on a heater. They're crazy. So right now, you're getting to the same situation as you had last year, where Winnipeg was really, really good last year. You had Colorado and Dallas, and one of those teams is going to go home in the first round. Now, that's great hockey for the first round. Fantastic. But you can make a case that the three best teams in the entire league right now are in the Central. And do you really think that that's the best product out there, where you have, one of your three best teams going home in the first round? Now, sure, it's a great series. And Dallas, Colorado last year was a 7-game great series. Fantastic. I don't get behind that. I get the rivalry aspect of that, but I still say 1 through 8. I'm sorry. That's me.
I understand why you're saying that, but when you do 1v8, you're making this assumption that the best teams are always going to win. That's what you're hoping for. Chalk. You're wanting chalk, and chalk doesn't happen very often. And in fact, how many times has the number 8 seed beaten the number 1 seed when it was 1v8? The Kings went from an 8th seed to the Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah.
So you're still, even if you go 1v8, you're still going to get some of these top teams knocked out in the first round.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's competitive balance. It's hard to find, the balance between everything. But when you look at a dominant division, like, for example, I think the Atlantic is way better than the Metro. The Metro is just, any team could kind of get hot, and I think any one of the 8 teams in the Metro could win the Metro and get to the conference finals. So the Central is so good. I think that right now Minnesota is probably the third best team and the third best team in the Central. And Minnesota or Dallas would go home right now in the first round.
Minnesota is catching fire now. They're catching the momentum. They've been on a heater, but they didn't start the year great. This was a year that they came out against the Blues in the home opener, embarrassed the Blues 5-0. And then they didn't score a 5-on-5 goal for, games. It took what, like double digits for them to finally score a 5-on-5 goal. All their goals were scored on the power play. It's still not a team that I trust. I know what you're saying. I agree with that. Dallas is going to be a tough out when it comes to the playoffs. Dallas, I think, is deeper. Colorado is running away with things right now. That pace is not going to keep up. They're going to slow down eventually. They're going to hit a rough patch somewhere this season. It always happens. But Colorado, it's never been a concern with Colorado in the regular season. Colorado hasn't always been a regular season team. It's the playoffs where they struggle because their depth doesn't show up. So
and goaltending,
yeah, and goaltending, yes. So
although Wedgwood's been unbelievable this year. Vezina finalist, maybe winner right now. That's crazy. Yeah, Wedgwood.
Their goaltending has been good, but like I said, that's why I say like teams like Edmonton. That's why I didn't. Although they made the final 2 years in a row, they still aren't a deep enough team in my mind to win the cup because Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, if they don't get the support that from their other players, then Ottawa or Edmonton's not going very far because those two guys can't just carry the offense all the time.
No, yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think I've done a couple of videos on this. There's an epidemic in the league right now that goaltending is at a 30-year low. For the first time in 30 years, you have a below 900 save percentage around the league goaltending. Just if you take every shot on goal and goals against, you have below 900 save percentage. And look at every night, you see low 8s to maybe even 700 save percentage right now. it is ugly with goaltending. So this is a year where goaltending is literally going to make or break you. I think the league has gotten to the point where there's so much talent right now and so much skill that the goaltenders haven't catched up. And I mean, it's kind of hard to find a generational goaltender that has. I mean, when you're playing goalie, it's just about basics and whatnot. I don't think there's really a generational talent to be a goaltender unless you're maybe 6'10" and you can move side to side like that. But you're gonna this league is still gonna come down to goaltending at the end of the day in the playoffs, and whichever goaltender shines and whichever goaltender crumbles. I mean, you've seen Hellebuck has been the best goaltender in the league for forever in the regular season, and then he crumbles in the playoffs. So I still say that. I still say it's goaltending that's good. That's going to win throughout. And teams like Toronto and Edmonton have had horrible goaltending, and we'll see. We're going to see what's going to happen.
Absolutely, goaltending is going to play a massive part this year, and that's why I'm still not counting out Dallas. Dallas is not first in the division. Like I put them, but there's still time. They can still statistically obviously catch Colorado. Colorado is going to slow down eventually, but Dallas is the team that I trust in the playoffs because of one aspect, and that's Jake Ottinger. Jake Ottinger, I think, is the best goalie in the Central Division, and I know that me and Guy, I'm sure you've seen this, we've touted that the Blues tandem can be one of the best in the league, the two of them together. They haven't shown it this year. They've been getting better in recent stretches, but as for goaltending, the best goalie, I think, in the Central is Jake Ottinger.
It's hard to argue against Wedgwood right now, but if you go track record, I'd take Ottinger over Wedgwood. But Wedgwood right now, I mean, Colorado legitimately could have the Hart, the Norris, and the Vezina all on one team. Like, I mean,
and I just meant from a playoff perspective. Wedgwood hasn't been in the playoffs, or has he had a playoff run yet?
Maybe like first round, something like that. I'm not 100% sure.
But
he was with Dallas for a while. He was with Dallas for a while, so he's been in the playoffs.
I do know that.
But
I do know that, but
enough games he's got.
Yeah, but I do know that he has a little bit of experience, but as of playoff performances, Ottinger's the guy that I would trust. And obviously Bennington, but Bennington's got to make it into the playoffs, for that to happen. From a playoff perspective.
So, hey, Matt, you talked about the goaltender averages. So this season, there have been 78 goaltenders that have played at least one game in the NHL. And and this surprised me, only 36 of them have a 900 or better save percentage, right? That's less than half, right? Or right at half, maybe a little less than half. So, I see where you're at. And then if you want to go to, taking out the goalies that haven't played as many games, right? You're looking at Wedgwood with 18 games, which is pretty close. I mean, he's played the majority. He's at 920. The only one above him that maybe would classify, because I forget. I think for a goalie, you've got to play a third of the games or something like that would be Devin Cooley of Calgary with 10 games. He's at 930. You're right when it comes to that. But then you pull goals against average. And it's, the goals against average for the league, I think, is it up this year or is it down? I think it's up. Down.
I think it's up. I think you see also a lot of empty net goals this year. I think depth is going to be a key factor, but I mean, I'll piggyback over to the Rangers right now. Like, they have Shesterkin and Quick, and honestly, anybody who's watching those games, Quick's been better than Shesterkin right now, which, if you don't follow the Rangers too closely, you might be a little shocked by that. If the Rangers fall out of contention, which they might, because I have inside sources that tell me Adam Fox is done for the season, so, I'll break that over here, maybe, potentially, if he is done. Jonathan Quick could be a very interesting trade piece that, could go to Toronto, could go to Edmonton, if the Rangers wanted to move him. I know he's older. I know he's grew up a Ranger fan and whatnot like that, but he's kind of goaltender that I think a team who might not want to trade away. Like if Edmonton wanted Binnington, which I don't think St. Louis is selling right now. It's too much of a jumbled right now. Everybody's right there in the playoff hunt, so I don't think you're gonna fall back and sell right now. But you're gonna get a haul for Binnington right now. Yeah, so I think if you were to trade for Quick as kind of like a Band-Aid for a season, I think that'd be interesting, to be honest with you.
With the start that the Blues goaltending has had, it's not been good. And I know that there's teams out there that would want a Jordan Binnington just because of how well he is in the playoffs, or how good he is. And I even said this on our show when we were talking about it last time, that if there was a time that you were going to get rid of Binnington, because Binnington's not going to be here forever, but there's a time where you're going to have to see if Hofer can be the number one here. And it's going to be sooner or later. It's going to be here just like that as soon as you know it. So if you have an Edmonton, honestly, I think that there's pieces there, but it's just a question of if Edmonton would give them up for Binnington. But Edmonton would love to get a goaltender like Jordan Binnington, but they're not going to be happy with what they're going to have to give up to get a Jordan Binnington. That's the issue that Edmonton fans don't really realize. Like, oh yeah, we get a big time goalie in the playoffs, but what does that mean if you have to give up an Evan Bouchard or and I'm not saying that's who it's going to be, but you're looking at some type of return for the Blues on that one.
I think a lot of Edmonton's issues is their defense. I think Bouchard and Nurse have been horrible. So I think even if you get a goaltender in there, I mean, I've seen Edmonton play. Now, Stuart Skinner had an amazing game against the Rangers. I think Stuart Skinner gets a little more heat. I think when you have a team with McDavid and Draisaitl, I think they're going to look for anybody other than McDavid and Draisaitl to blame. Now, I don't think Skinner is a Vezina winner or anything even close to that. But if you're looking at a team like that, would take him back, I think Nashville would make a lot of sense for Edmonton if they traded Soros and got Skinner back, because Nashville's about to go on a full-blown rebuild. They had a horrible offseason. It's off-season a half ago where they got Stamkos and Marchessault and Brady Shea, horrible contracts that aged like milk. But I think that's kind of a move that Edmonton would make over Binnington. To be 100% honest, I think they'd go for Soros.
Well, yeah, I think honestly that could do him well. I'm not a very high on Stuart Skinner. I think he's obviously it's kind of a microscope, like you said, because they have two of the best players in the world, and you have to focus on somebody. And I honestly don't think that Edmonton fans truly think about it like, oh, we just need a goaltender and that's it. No, I think I'm with you. I think their back end is a massive problem too. I don't think it's just the goaltending. And I think Nashville would be a good destination for a Stuart Skinner. I think he might do well in a smaller market like Nashville. And then have, Saros, who is a good goalie. We all know he's a good goalie, just on a aging bad team in Nashville, going to a team that has really, two of the best players in the world on it. That could do them some good.
Boy, this conversation went a bunch of different places a lot quicker than I thought it would.
Sorry, I got ADHD, guys. I'm sorry.
It's been fun. It's been fun, but I do want to get into Blues hockey a little bit. All right. Sure. I mean, I know a Rangers fan and all, and we can talk about that game. Last week on Monday, or I think it was Monday, Blues were in New York. They were doing their kind of New York swing. They played 5 games on the East Coast. We talked about the game against Toronto and Philly, and then they stayed in the New York area for 3 games. The first game they played was against the New York Rangers. That was a surprising outcome for me. The Rangers won that, but I don't feel like the better team didn't win that game. From your aspect, do you feel like, did the Rangers earn that win, or did the Blues cough that win up?
If you know anything about the New York Rangers playing at Madison Square Garden, you should be kicking yourself the fact that you lost to the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. 8 games this season, the New York Rangers have scored 1 goal or fewer at MSG. 8 games, just in this early part of the season. They've been shut out 5 times. I think the Blues dominated play. I think a lot of times Ranger goaltending and their defense picks up the slack. the fact that the Rangers were able to score 3 goals on net, that kind of was that is usually enough for the Rangers to win. Quick and Shesterkin have been good enough this season, and the defense has been good enough this season. So that game, again, I think if you look at the play, probably the Blues dominated play a little bit more than the Rangers did. But you know what? I mean, you go back to St. Louis to get a chance later this week. I think they even it up because I think the Rangers are injury-ridden and they're all over the place. So I mean, yeah.
It was a good back and forth game. It was a vast difference from what we seen the next game against when we played New Jersey. It was more of a defensive battle in against the Rangers, and then it was a little bit more open with the Devils. But I thought it could have went either way. Me personally, obviously I'm a Blues fan, so it may come off a little biased. I thought the Blues were the better team in that game against the Rangers. I found it weird that, if I'm honest, I think the Rangers played the Blues probably the best of anybody on that road trip, if I'm honest, maybe besides Philadelphia. Philadelphia was good. But the Blues picked up points in 4 of 5, and the only game that they didn't pick up points against was the Ranger game, and I thought that they deserved to pick up at least a point in that game, and didn't. So it was unfortunate, but, I was telling Guy this when we were doing the watch along. I've always been a big Rangers guy. Like, Rangers are kind of my East Coast team. I don't know what kind of really drew me to them, but I do kind of know. I like players like Zibanejad. I've always been a big Zibanejad guy. Obviously, when they got Panarin, great player, but he's obviously has some Chicago ties, so no love lost there. But I love Shesterkin. Shesterkin's amazing.
We gave you Bush.
We did get Bush, and that I'm sure we'll touch on that because that's been a touchy subject here in St. Louis.
A couple of good questions here. I want to put out there. It says Ryan Green says compare the salary and play between Bennington and Shesterkin. You spelled it wrong, but
that's all right.
Shesterkin.
Neither one of them's playing up to their salaries. To be honest with you, I mean, Bennington is getting closer. Right? I mean, Bennington, believe it or not, so I've always felt when it come to goaltenders that $10 million for both your goaltenders was the number, right? For your goaltending period. And that's, basically where the Blues are right now. They're a little over $9 million. I feel like Bennington is, at $6 million, he's a bargain. He's had a rough start, but again, a lot of goalies have had a rough start. A lot of teams have had a rough start. The season is really surprising, and we'll kind of talk about this later, in the way things are coming out. So, the Blues are in, 7th in their division, and they're 4 points out of a playoff spot. That's got a lot to be said. So, what do you think there,
Well,
Matt?
I think the season is everybody's so right there. I mean, I can't remember a season recently where so many teams are just kind of jumbled a little over a quarter of the way through the season. Rangers and Blues have very similar point totals in terms of games played and how many points they have. But you look at the Shesterkin contract, I'll give you guys a little insight. My goal on social media is to get the Rangers general manager, Chris Drury, fired. He's been an absolute abomination. He's been awful, and maybe we'll touch into that. One of his first moves was the Buchnevich trade, which obviously you guys won. But this Shesterkin contract, what killed me was the Rangers offered him 8 for 88, which is $11 million a year, and he wasn't playing that great last season. And then they traded Trouba to Anaheim to free up $8 million the last year and this year. And they immediately gave him a raise to 11.5, which, in my opinion, he didn't earn it. Now, I know he's sensational in the playoffs. Igor Shesterkin's fantastic in the playoffs. He single-handedly carried the Rangers to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2024. But that salary, again, the cap is going up. So does it bother me too much? No. But what does bother me is that we have the first year of an 8-year deal on a probably rebuilding roster coming up the next 3 to 5 years. And by the time the Rangers might be ready to compete, Shesterkin's going to be 35, 36 years old. So Bennington, I think, is, how old is Bennington? What is he, 27?
29. No,
29?
29.
I think he's 31. They're right about the same age.
Yeah, he's in his 30s.
Oh, okay. I thought he was younger than Shesterkin, but I mean, listen, I think Shesterkin's a better goaltender, but contract-wise, it's probably a wash. I mean, that's kind of how I feel.
Bennington's 32.
32. Wow,
Right.
I did not
Remember,
expect
he
that.
came into the league. He came in 18-19. He was 25 years old.
Okay, yeah,
Well,
that's probably.
and that's kind of why that's why I've been on the not so much sell because the Blues are not out of this by any means. Like I've been positive about this team. This team has been Jekyll and Hyde, just like the Rangers have been. But the Blues are a second half team, and they've shown that here in the last couple of years. Yes, they need to start the seasons a little better. But I'm not on the whole 100% sell off Jordan Binnington. But if you were to give up Binnington and you were to get another goalie and give Hofer the nod and try to see what you got in him as a starter, I'm okay with it, because if a team is willing to overpay for him and give you pieces that will help you in the future, I mean, you're going to have to figure out if Hofer's a number one or not eventually. So I'm not there yet.
But
This
for
trade
me,
deadline is going to be interesting. Yeah.
you've still got a year, though. So Bennington's got this year and next year left on his contract. He becomes more tradable next year when he only has a 10-team no-trade list and fights a 14-team no-trade list this year. The teams that are going to be open to pay him, because he's going to get a pay raise wherever he goes, the teams that may be open to pay him are going to be teams that may be on his no trade list now, but maybe won't be next season. So there's a little bit to that. Next question. God, I don't want to get into this question, but I love Anthony, so I'm going to get it to it. Guy Benson, who do you see, and to all of us, but who do you see getting traded at this point? I hate to say it, but I think Kyrou should be on the block. I'm going to hold off on this one. I'll let Justin go first, then I'll go to Matt, and then I'll come to me. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, actually, I've kind of dove into this a little bit. So actually, Matt, I actually want to get your opinion on Jordan Kyrou first. I actually want to ask our guest first what he thinks about Jordan Kyrou.
Listen, I saw something on Twitter that someone was suggesting Alexis Lafreniere for Jordan Kyrou straight up. I would literally pick Jordan Kyrou off the airport. I would drive Lafreniere down. I mean, I would do that in a heartbeat. Jordan Kyrou is, I think, having not a great year, but I think a lot of the players on St. Louis, they have a lot of depth scoring. They have 9 guys who have 10 points. Another 3 guys have 9 points. So they're kind of spread out. So Jordan Kyrou isn't standing out as maybe what you'd want him to be, right? A top line, forward. But I think if he got a change of scenery, you guys would regret it. So I think it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. I think Jordan Kyrou, if he got traded to the right situation, like a Montreal, where that team is just loaded and oozing with talent, and they want somebody on that second line behind Suzuki and Caulfield and whatnot like that, I think that would just be absolutely lethal. I think right now you got to try to hold on to him, unless, again, it's just a deal you can't pass up on. That's just how I feel.
Yeah. So getting into my thoughts, as of right now, should Jordan Kyrou be on the? No, Jordan Kyrou should not be on the trade block. It would be a mistake to let him go. I will say he is young enough. He just got this brand new deal. He is still a young guy. You still have a couple years to see what you got in Jordan Kyrou. He's still not in his prime. I don't know how old Jordan Kyrou is. Jordan Kyrou is what guy?
27.
27.
Right?
So he's on the brink of his. I would say 29 is usually they say 29 is about where you are at your peak, like at your best. Usually, I would say about 29ish maybe. But you still have a couple seasons to go to see what you kind of got. I mean, we kind of know what we got. St. Louis doesn't have a, Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, a guy that can really take over a game. They have a lot of skilled guys. The thing with me is, like Matt said, if there's a deal that comes along that you cannot pass up on, say you get a proven defenseman that will help your defensive core in the long run, Jordan Kyrou may be an option that might see himself out. For me, I think this is actually going to come down to a guy in our system, our prospect in our system that has actually been playing very well in the QMJHL, and that is Justin Carbonneau, our recent draft pick. I loved what I saw from this kid in camp and training camp and preseason and all that. Scoring threat and the player that we expect him to be. Jordan Kyrou may be, I wouldn't say expendable, but he could be a guy that could be used as a piece to get something that you may need in the future.
I know what Justin's going to call me, the Kyrou apologist or whatever.
Because you are. Because you are. Because you are. Well, let's hear it, guy. Let's hear it.
Okay. I think you have to look at the too many fans have this beauty of let's trade our worst player for somebody's best player, or there is still this hangover out there because of the Berube situation. And because of that, Kyrou gets a lot of hate that is not deserved. And then if you're looking at, he's got a no trade clause for the next 8 years, or at least the next 5 of the next 6 of the 8 years, 6 of the next 8 years. He's got to approve it. So even if you could get that awesome deal, it's depending on whether or not he's going to say yes. And you don't want another Torrey Krug situation where it gets leaked and the player just goes, screw you, I don't want to play anymore. Right? And he has an off season because he thinks that the team wants to get rid of him for nothing. And that's a negative. If you look at who could be or should possibly traded this year, Braden Shen is kind of at the top of that list right now. Thomas has been poised to take the C for a while. I thought Thomas probably should have gotten the C over Shen, especially with him having that big deal just coming in and some other things happening. Falk is at that point where he could possibly get traded. But if you're going to trade Kyrou, he's a 3 or 4 first round. Well, basically, it's got to be a Ryan O'Reilly type trade. Give me 5 pieces back for him. Right? That's what I think it's got to be. And how many teams are going to be willing to do that are a contender? Because that's the only thing that Kyrou's going to pull his no trade clause is going to be for somebody that's going to get him a ring. Right?
It would have to be Chicago, Montreal, maybe even Carolina, because those teams have cap space. Those are the teams that I think have, like, Carolina has positive draft equity from the Rantanen trade. Chicago has a loaded prospect pool, but you're never trading with Chicago, obviously. And Montreal has cap space. I think Montreal would make the most sense for Kyrou if you were to go. But I just can't see it. I mean, I think looking at the standings and whatnot, I think the Blues rip off a 5 or 6 game winning streak, or even just 10 games where you go 7-2-1 or something like that, and get 15 out of 20 points. You're in there. I mean, I think it's too early to say you're going to sell. I mean, that's just from me, from outside perspective.
I mean,
way too early.
I mean, when looking at the Blues, the Blues are not out. Like I said, this team was a playoff team last year. It's a playoff team this year. I don't care what anyone says. The team is better on paper than it was last year with the additions of Suter. They lost Foxa, who was a great 4th line guy for them, but was paid way too much. You got Bukestad. Bukestad's been good. Joseph stepped up his game. This team is a playoff team, and I expect this team to be in the playoffs when the playoffs come around. I really do. The Blues are playing good hockey. They've played good hockey for at least 2 weeks now, I would say. And it's been consistent. They haven't got the wins that they would have liked, but we're starting to see those wins. They picked up 2 big wins, obviously only 2 wins in a row, but you're not out of it. So you're not trading anybody off right now, but I am with Guy that Braden Shen is the guy that probably is going to be on the outside looking in if it comes time to get rid of pieces. But Kyrou, I've said this to Guy before. Guy, you remember it, and you can attest to this. Kyrou that was the best Jordan Kyrou that we have had last season. Jordan Kyrou was the best Kyrou that I've seen all season. And I get your whole stance on Berube and all that. Berube's gone. Okay, so eventually it's not on Berube anymore. It's on Kyrou. This situation is on Kyrou now. Kyrou doesn't have Berube here. He's playing better. I will give him that, and it was partly to do with the fact that Berube lost to him, but Berube's gone now. So that is in the past. What happens now, the people that have the iteration of Kyrou, yeah, maybe partly due to that, but it's what Kyrou does from this point on that matters, and that's on Kyrou, not Craig Berube. Berube's not here anymore.
I think you misunderstood what I said, to be honest, and I don't want to get into it when we have a guest here, but I think you misunderstood what I said. But so the other, I think I saw another comment here. I forget what it was now. It says, I wouldn't be surprised if Blues kept him and Benner and Hoffer just switched duties. I don't know about that. I mean, I think part of the goaltender swapping right now is I mean, this is going to sound weird. I think with Montgomery that he's keeping the goaltenders uncomfortable, right? And in that uncomfortability, it might be making them play better, right? Because they've actually lately, I mean, they've played really, really well, even though the numbers may not show it, but they have the eye test. They played really, really well, and this, you're going to play here, you're going to play here. That makes that takes you out of your comfort zone a little bit when you're all of a sudden maybe you're not the guy that you thought was going to be playing this game, or you're playing a game you didn't think you should be playing, or whatever. But okay, maybe I got to get better, and I think that has something to do with the quality of their play over the last couple of weeks.
Well, the numbers. Sorry, Matt. The numbers are bad. The numbers are bad, but the numbers only look bad, I think, just because of how bad the start was. I think if the start was like not as bad as it was, the stats wouldn't look as bad. But the eyes of the people who have actually viewed the Blues, the goaltending has been way, way, way better than what the stats show. Sorry about that, Matt. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No. I'm just looking at it this way. I think Montgomery's a great coach. I didn't think he deserved to get fired that quickly out of Boston, and he really turned his season around last year. And honestly, you look at this season. This season is very weird because you have the Olympics, and you're missing a whole month of action. So, what team is going to do well is the team that is fresh. Whether that's rotating guys, depth guys in and out of the lineup. There's a lot more injuries this year. Every team has them. Guys are going to be manged up because you're doing a lot of back-to-backs, a lot of 3 and 4 nights, 4 and 6 nights. Like that's what you're doing. So when you have two goaltenders that are 1A, 1B, however you want to look at it, and you could keep them fresh, and you have a 10-game stretch where maybe one gets 6 starts, one gets 4, it's going to really come in handy right now. I mean, so I wouldn't look at trading a backup goaltender like Hoffer this quickly, but depth is the key in this season because especially in the Olympic year, like I said, everything gets mushed together because then you're out for 3.5 weeks to go to the Olympics, and you got to pick it back up again.
So you brought up a really, really good point, and I want to bring this up. We're at right at the 30% mark, right? 8, 16, 24 games. We're a little over that. Most teams have played 24. Some have played 27. I think one might have played 28. 27 might be the most. At this point in the season, there are 32 teams in the league. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams are below 500. That's insane. I mean, mathematically, it's almost impossible that you have this where teams have of the points percentage, only 4 or 5 are under 500. And at some point, it's got to even out, right? I mean, usually you have, you go back and I'd say usually maybe 17, 18 teams that are above 500 because the team at the bottom is really, really bad. But you don't have that this year. You have the team at the top really, really good, and then everybody else just seems to be hanging in there. And this is like, for me, a surprise that you have so many teams above 500.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think it's competitive balance in the league. I think salary cap has played a factor in that, obviously teams are being able to put out a product. But like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with back-to-backs. I think you catch a team off a back-to-back and, tired legs, you're able to jump all over them and whatnot like that. So I don't know if the style of hockey has been this year. I don't know if it's a worse product because of the Olympics, because everything gets kind of jammed in. I don't know if it's a worse product because of the goaltending. I mean, we got more goals going on and whatnot. But like I said, this is a season that I can't really remember that everybody's so jumbled right there. And you go on a 6 or 7 game winning streak, you could be in second place, and you go on a 3 game losing streak, you're at the bottom of the division. So It's crazy.
Jason Nichols said it's all the overtime games. Everyone's getting points. A little bit, but not completely. I mean, it's still mathematically half the teams need to be above 500, half the teams need to be below 500 at some point, right? Because when you at the end of the season, when you add everything up, it's going to equal 500, right? It's going to come out to 500 no matter what. So it's and in all actuality, so everyone talking about this quote unquote compressed schedule. But if you go back to last season, the beginning of December, we're at the same point in games. We're at the same point in games. The only difference is we started a week earlier this year.
Wow.
They actually started about a week earlier. And in the past, like the last couple of seasons, the Blues would play their first game. They would be the last team to start their first game. This season, they were one of the first teams to start their first game. So that kind of helped them out. It should have helped them, but I don't think the schedule is as compressed as everybody really thinks it is. All right. I had seen a tweet about this a week or so ago, going back and looking at, at this point in the last couple of seasons, and it was only like a 1 or 2 game difference through 4 or 5 seasons. So it may not be as compressed as everybody thinks it is. I actually would like to see the NHL starting closer to the beginning of October, like they used to. They used to start on like the 1st or 2nd of October. And now that they're down next season where they only have 4 preseason games, I could see that happening where they start moving closer to October. And I could also see them, I know they're doing the All-Star game next season, but I could also see them starting to look at doing something more like the 4-Nation tournament on some type of regular rotational basis.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, they go to 84 games next year. So that's I think you're going to have an earlier start. I think a lot of teams are ditching the extra preseason games. But, I mean, the 4 Nations is so great. I don't know how you can go back to a regular All-Star game after that. I mean, I think it was just such an unbelievable showing of national pride, representing your country and whatnot like that. There's nobody you talk to that says, the 4 Nations are bad. I mean, I guess from teams' perspectives, I guess you don't want your guy getting hurt representing his country. I mean, I guess you probably feel that same way about the Olympics right now. I mean, if you're sending out a guy who gets hurt in the Olympics and whatnot like that, I don't think you feel too comfortable about it. That's why I think the season is so unpredictable because, I mean, right now everybody's so jumbled, but somebody could be injured right now and they could have the 3-week break and be healthy after the Olympics, and then somebody could go to the Olympics and be healthy and get hurt, and then that could totally derail the team season. So I'm not a fan of the All-Star game.
That 4-day, that 4 Nation stuff, it felt important, and like Matt said, I don't see how you could really go back to the All-Star game. I mean, the thing that told me that like the All-Star game just needs to just not be a thing is when they did the skills competition and you just saw like Nikita Kucherov just not give a single shit. Like when the players don't care, then why should the fans care? So, like, when the players that are there competing in it, and if they don't care, then why should we care? Why not have something like the Four Nations where you get a little bit of like, yeah, you get a break in hockey from seeing your actual team play, but you get to see those players show their skills off for their country, kind of thing.
No, I actually like the Olympics, and I do like the fact that the pros are going to the Olympics. I'm old enough to remember the '80 Olympics, right? Like I remember watching it on TV, right? So I understood what it was, and I actually got to see that year the Russians play the Blues, and in '80 the Blues didn't have a great team, but they just got destroyed. I mean, a pro team. And actually, if you go back and look, I think that year the Russians played a bunch of NHL teams and beat almost all of them. So, when after the 80s, when you have, a lot of these Western Bloc or Soviet Bloc teams, we're having players that were basically pro players. And that's why at some point it had to change. And to make it more even, and I'm glad they finally went that way. We had a question here. Why are they adding 2 games to the season anyways? And then someone replied, oh, it's revenue. It's not just revenue. There's something else that adding 2 games does. And I wonder if anybody really knows what that 2 games does. And it's why I don't think there's too many baseball games, to go back to that first thing that we talked about, right? Why? Because I'm not old enough to remember the 150, I think it was 156 game schedule and then they increased it to 162. But I do remember something that happened because of the 162 game schedule. And it happened a lot of times.
I think we've kind of touched on this before, but let me take a stab at it. Is it because with the 2 games you get more divisional matchups?
That's part of it. That's one reason. There's another reason. There's an unintended consequence. Well, I don't want to say consequence, but unintended bonus of adding the 2 games. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got everybody stumped. When you make more games, there's a better chance to separate the points out to where now you don't have as many, like last year where Calgary, you have to use a tie break to get a team in. Right? So our team gets in because of a tie break. When you add the extra games, that helps spread out the points a little bit. And that does stretch out and make it a little bit easier so you're not using the tie break as much. It's an unintended bonus of what happens to adding the 2 games. And you had said something earlier about teams. Next year, it is only 4 preseason games. That is a league mandate. So some teams did 6, some did 7. Very few did 7. I know some only did 5, but I know a lot did 6. And the way that they're doing it next year, it's 4, and then the 2 preseason games became regular season games. So that's where I'm at. The Four Nation would be during the Summer Olympic year, wouldn't it? Every 4 years, but during the year of the summer. I actually think I would be okay with that. I would like to see the All-Star game get changed to more of an All-Star tournament. Right? Take what they're doing now, add a couple more players, because I don't think that they have enough players from each division. Add a couple more players and make it over the weekend that you do a round-robin tournament, and then do a championship game on Sunday. So you got Friday and Saturday. You're doing, you can play 2 games, or you could even play 3 games, right? Because you're only playing a 20-minute 3-on-3. You could probably put a second game in there. I mean, they do it. They did it for the All-Star game the way it was now. Guys were playing 2 separate games, right? So you do it in 3 games, and then have that way you're really getting everybody involved, and you're keeping them. Your players aren't getting knocked out 20 minutes into the game. And I think that would be a good way to bring excitement back.
Yeah, the All-Star game, I don't particularly have an issue with. It was the skills competition stuff. It got a little too corny for me. The way that they would do certain things, like when they would give awards and stuff, or the win to like clearly people that shouldn't have got the win. Like the one that comes to mind is I think it was Trevor Zegras when he did that like cool ass shit in the shootout challenge thing that they did, and then they didn't even give it to him. They gave it to I think Petrangelo because they were in Vegas. Like that's just corny and lame to me. Like if you're gonna have a skills competition, at least make it true to what it actually is, a skills competition.
Yeah, I just think at this day and age, and it's not just the NHL, I think it's cross sports, NBA, MLB, NFL. These players, I just don't see, I think are motivated to do All-Star, Pro Bowl, whatever you want to call it, competitions. I don't think they're motivated to do that. And I think back in, the 80s and 90s, there was like a sense of pride where they went, okay, we're the best of our division, or we're the best of our conference, or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to go out there and show why we're one of the best. I just don't think you can motivate them unless you're paying them. And then even then, like I just don't think the All-Star game is really is really that much. I mean, I like the Four Nations. I also like the World Cup of Hockey when we had that, right? What was that, 2016, where you had Team North America, Team Europe. That was awesome too. That was really cool. That was before the season though. I don't know. I just the All-Star games just don't do it for me. I don't tune into any sports All-Star games. It's just not for me.
I was disappointed. Honestly, I know that we're kind of on the same wavelength here about liking the Four Nations, but I was still a little disappointed. I know like what everything behind it, but I wish that Russia, because I think Russia, it's always better when you see Russia in those type of tournaments. I just love when they're in it. I think it just makes it more competitive, more exciting. But obviously we all know the storyline behind all that.
But you know what? I've done multiple videos on my YouTube channel, TikTok. I've done multiple videos about how I think Russia should be in the Olympics. Here's what I'll say. Do we think Russian relations are worse now than they were in like the 1980s peak Soviet era? You know what I mean? Like Cold War stuff. And they were in the Olympics then. I mean, listen, politics aside, we're not going to get into politics over hockey, but Russia, if they were going to play, it would be awesome. I mean, they have a loaded forward group. Their defense is a little bit of a weak spot. They have some great goaltenders. They could pick any of three guys to goaltend for them. There'd be a good chance that Russia would medal. An outside chance that they could end up with gold if they were in the Olympics, or Four Nations for that matter.
Well, and I think it kind of just lends back to the whole thing, because I was a big a Datsuk guy. So, Datsuk being in there and, just seeing the days of when he was in it and just the amount of talent that they had. I mean, I think that there's a bunch of Russian talent in the league now. I don't think there is as much as name value alone as there was back then, but I do think that there's a lot. You have Kaprizov, I believe. You have, Pavel Buchnevich. But as for incredible name value, there's some really, really good Russian players.
Yeah.
No,
they well, especially in the goaltender, and that they would. Yeah, I think that they would be right at the top of the goaltending. Here, I want to get into this because I've seen Jason has mentioned this twice. 3-on-3. We've talked about it before. We've talked about it a little bit before. Well, we got about 25 minutes left or so, and there's a couple topics I want to get to. One of them, and because Jason's brought it up, I try and get as many of our comments in as we can. What is your thought on 3-on-3, Matt?
So I think it's too gimmicky. I hate the shootout, first of all. I would love to get rid of the shootout. But I'd rather keep 3-on-3 over the shootout. My opinion, this is what I would say. 5 minutes 4-on-4, 5 minutes 3-on-3, nothing after that, it's a tie. You don't find a winner. That's what I would say. I think 3-on-3 of late. You want? Go ahead, guy.
Well, here's the thing. You guys are younger, so you don't remember overtimes where you think it's bad now, right? Where they're taking it back like that. When I was watching hockey and growing up, you would almost never get a team win an overtime game. Never. because they would hold
No.
the puck in their zone. No one wanted to make a mistake because you got no points, right? You got no points, and it was huge when that. Now for a while they did the overtime loss / tie where you still got the point, but even then teams weren't pushing it. The 3-on-3 opened up or the 4-on-4, and they tried to open up ice to get teams to really go after that second point. And for a while they did, until they figured out a way to not go after it. There is a way to make that go away, and it's to make it 2 zones. You cannot take the puck back into your defensive zone. You purposely take the puck back in your defensive zone. If you do, it's a face-off.
Well,
And that,
yeah. Well, here's my thinking on 4-on-4 versus 5-on-5. This is exactly why I say, because you had the period of the long change 3-on-3. This is what happened, and it turned into a puck possession battle where you try to catch the other 3 guys, and I hate it. And yeah, I completely agree with you saying, get rid of the 2-zone passing, going back into your own defensive zone. But period of the long change, go 4-on-4. Period in the short change, go 3-on-3. And then if it's still tied, don't do a shootout. That's my opinion on it. I think the shootout is just gimmicky, and it seems it's such an anticlimactic way to end a game. That's how I feel.
Myself, I'm strongly convinced that, first of all, I may be living like in 2 separate bodies. Me and Matt may be the same people. I have no idea. I've said this on numerous occasions. I hate the shootout. I don't like it at all. I think, and I know, Guy, I told you this, and you kind of told me, oh, well, view it like this, but I get it. I get why they do it, but me and you have discussed 3-on-3 ad nauseum and how we think that they could change it to make it better. Being the, changing the rule to where they can't, like a team can't take the puck out, intentionally and all that. But I personally think that if they can eliminate or just have a rarity to where we don't see shootouts, it would be good. Just because I think shootouts are such a 50-50 battle to where, and not to take credit away from a certain team, but you can have a team that's been dominated the whole game, and then you go into overtime, it doesn't go away of a goal or anything like that. And then you go into a shootout, and say that team that got dominated the whole game, that didn't really deserve to win, wins a shootout because it's a 50-50 chance. I'm with Matt. I think it's corny. I think it's lame. I think that they need to really lower the rarity that we see the shootouts. I think that whether that be they make overtime 10 minutes or whatever. If they can keep 3-on-3, that's fine. But make it like 10 minutes or something to where if you get to a shootout, it's a very rare occasion.
So back in my day, they've always done the 5-minute overtime. I don't think, as far as I can remember, I don't ever remember it being 10 minutes, right? I think it's all for the majority of my lifetime, because on my lifetime's the expansion era, right? Not the original the expansion era. I think it's always been 5-on-5. The shootout, the purpose of the shootout is so that teams do not sit back. And Justin, I think you understand where you say limiting shootouts is where I think they should do. I do think it should be 2 5-minute. I think it should go 2 5 minutes, one short, one short change, one long change. And if you do that, if you increase it to 10 minutes and you switch it to halves, you do an ice scrape and switch, because that would be almost like a regular. Now you're getting a little closer. And then if you do go to a shootout, the goalies don't switch; they just stay where they're at, right? I think that then you do limit them, and the sudden death, like playing until it's the sudden death, that has always only been playoffs. It's never been in the regular season, never, right? So
well, and I agree that they don't need to play like a continuation overtime thing to where they just play until it's over. But I think, like I said, I think a continuation of overtime, at least, you could do the 5-on-5, or you could just make it a full 10 minutes, and you could just make that a long change 10 minutes. I mean, I don't know how people would feel about that, but I feel like in that case, you're not going to see as many shootouts because you're going to have some team score, I think, in at least 10 minutes of overtime, depending on how they do like changes and stuff like that. Because I do think that there needs to be a rule change where you stop seeing keep away, like the puck being kept away, like me and you talk about, Guy, like where you just play keep away. If they can change it to where there's less of that, then you're going to see a goal in overtime. You're probably going to see teams push a little harder because you can't do what you do now, and that's just hold the puck to tire people out.
Well, would you be in favor of more soccer rules? 3 points for regulation win, 2 for overtime, 1 for overtime loss. I mean, that changes the game as well.
Yeah, I've heard that, but you know what? And I've seen this numerous times. As much as I would like to see, I like that. I really do the 3-2-1-0 format. The problem is when you do apply it to seasons, it doesn't change anything. It really, like maybe 1 or 2 teams actually flip spots, overall. So in all actuality, it doesn't change things. Would it make teams maybe play a little bit more for what I would see happening in the third period in a tie game, teams backing off so they don't lose that point. Playing, because when they had overtime and you lost the point, teams would rather get the point. They would get of a 5-minute, you might get 1 rush out of each team, and that was it. 1 cycle, and then after that, it was keep away. We'll get our cycle, we had our shot, you get your cycle, you got your shot, now we'll each take our point. Mm-hmm. And that's what the shootout is away, is that methodology of we'll get the point, we'll just take the point and not get 0 points if we lose the overtime. Mm-hmm. That's the importance of the shootout.
Well, and I think, and Matt, I kind of want to bring this up is because that's just why this is always an interesting topic, because we all have kind of given a solution and what we think would be best. But the issue is it's so hard because all of these solutions have gray areas. There's always a, oh, well, you could do this, but then you have another issue here. And you could do this, but there's always another issue here. So it feels like any solution, it feels like it's not a clear-cut, great answer, because I feel like it's a gray area. I feel like if you change something here, it ruins it in another area. If you change something here, it ruins it in another area, if you get what I mean.
100%. I agree.
You always have unintended bonuses and unintended consequences, right?
Absolutely.
The unintended consequence of 3-on-3 hockey, trying to open it up, is that teams realize you could cycle back and change out and wear the other team down by not letting them make the change because it's the long change, right? Well, one thing they could do is not switch sides on the overtime. Keep it the short change.
Yeah.
Right? With that.
True.
But even then, now that it's a short change, right? Do they still get the chance to change out? Because the other team's got to go back. Was the defensive teams, now the defensive team gets to change out? Do they? Not always, right? I mean, how many times have you seen a team on the short side change the defensive players during a cycle? They don't. So that doesn't work either. It's come to that. In 85, in 83, 5-minute sudden death OT started. I'll go back and look, Jason. You might be right. He said 20-minute sudden death OT ended in 1943. And he goes, I must be reincarnated. But that would have been before TV. That would have been before TV, right? So TV wouldn't have had anything to do with why they ended it then. And I can go back and look later. That was a good topic, actually. I thought we got some good conversation out of that. The last topic I want to talk about today before we go, and I know this is going to take the majority of the 15 minutes because Justin is about to blow up, is the call on Torpachenko yesterday.
Oh God, I want to hear Matt's take on this one.
Hold on, let me set. So Torpachenko and Logan Cooley ended up colliding. Originally, no penalty called. Logan Cooley goes down on the ice and is helped off the ice. The refs go review it and call a 5-minute major. Today it comes out that Logan Cooley has a thigh contusion, thigh bruise, right? He got a Charlie horse, basically. And the league said no supplemental They did not see it as intentional. They saw it as accidental contact, right? Now, I agree with all of that. My issue in all of this, I don't have a problem with them calling the 5-minute major and going and reviewing it. I wonder how much. I do agree with Justin here. The refs on this one, it feels like they're trying to protect the star player. And they punished the player and punished the team unnecessarily. Now, it didn't work out that way, luckily, but it feels like that's what happened. How do we fix this?
So,
go ahead, Matt.
Okay. So it's not exactly apples to apples, but yesterday there was Adam Fox got hurt. And I don't know if any of you guys saw Adam Fox hit, but you can make so much more of a case that Brendan Hagel, who didn't get a penalty, boarded Adam Fox. Maybe not a major, but at least 2 minutes. He got nailed into the boards, right? And now, who's a bigger star? Adam Fox, Logan Cooley? It's kind of hard to say. They play different positions. Adam Fox is obviously a Norris winner. Logan Cooley's a sensational player, whatnot like that. So I got to push back about protecting stars because I think Adam Fox is, I don't think he's Quinn Hughes or Makar, but Adam Fox is one of the better offensive defensemen in the game, and obviously he's, I don't want to say star, but he's a very good offensive defenseman, and he's up there. He should be one of those guys that if he were a star, be a little bit more protected. So in that situation, he wasn't. I hate this reactionary officiating. That's what I hate. Where it's, oh gosh, that guy really got hurt, so we're gonna make a call up. You got to look at it. This is a violent sport. Injuries happen, and honestly, I didn't see any injury on that. I'm just referring to the Ranger with Fox, kind of gives a little context. There should have been a penalty on that. Hagel really hit him hard into the boards, and if anyone hasn't seen the hit, take a look at it. But I mean, I don't know. I think the officiating is inconsistent, and I think you get the.
Was there any supplemental disciplinary action on Hagel?
Nothing, and that's part of my problem with the Rangers is that we have such weak management and we have such weak leadership that nobody even stuck up for Adam Fox and got into Hagel's face, and that's the problem. That's the problem why the Rangers they're a pushover team. But we're not a Ranger podcast; we're a Blues podcast here. But I mean, I think Cooley is, again, he got a thigh contusion. It happens. Guys going 20 miles per hour on skates. I mean, and then to have, like I said, reactionary officiating, that's going to be a detriment because I think you have a lot of teams playing at once. They do a lot of this hockey night where you have 16 games where all 32 teams are playing. You can't have the best of the best officiating crews, honestly. And I think you've seen poor officiating throughout the league this year, just my opinion, especially when you have 10, 12, even 16 games a night. You get a lot of the B or C level officiating crews, maybe even a D level officiating crew. That's just my take.
Well, I'm with Guy because Guy talks about the human element. I'm all there for the human element. People make mistakes. I'm okay with that. Missing a trip, missing a hook here and there, fine. But when you're coming down and missing blatant stuff, I mean, you got to really ask yourself what's going on with this league because, like Matt said, it is a consistency problem. I get what you're saying that, it may not be a star thing, but I personally do think so because I look at different teams and, I think Adam Fox is a star. And, I haven't seen the hit. I'll have to go look at it. And Hagel has had some history. With being in altercations. I mean, just last year he had the issue with Florida. Where Florida and them. So he's not innocent. And that's kind of why I say, why does the NHL not take action there? But no, they want to target a guy in Torpchenko who has zero history of being a dirty guy. He's not a known dirty player. He's never committed any dirty plays. And Logan Cooley goes down, he gets hurt. I feel for Logan Cooley, but in the grand scheme of things, now that we see it, he didn't get as hurt as we thought he did. Some people were saying that he sold it a bit, that he was kind of a soccer star out there a little bit. I don't know if I can make that assumption because it was knee on knee, but the fact of that we're seeing it now that it was kind of like a Charlie horse kind of thing. I mean, you're kind of wondering like, that's a little interesting. But this was not a malicious play by Torpchenko. The fact that the thing that bothers me the most with this play is what's the sign to tell you that it's a penalty? This, right? This didn't happen yesterday. None of this. 2 officials on the ice. This didn't happen. So Cooley goes down, no call, not a call, and then they call 5-minute, and then they can review it. That I can understand. I'm with Guy on that one. You can call 5 to review it. That's the only way you can review it. I understand it. But you didn't have your arm raised to begin with, and I get it. It's a fast sport. You kind of don't know what happened. You want to look at it. But then you look at it, and then you come to the conclusion that a guy standing his ground, throwing his shoulder up like this, is worthy of a 5-minute penalty. That's my issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I want to go back. Part of the reason that probably the arm, and I'm just making an assumption, the arms don't go up is that play stopped right away. Right? The play stopped right away. So, I can see maybe some concern for Cooley and not, the arm not being up that way. Maybe. Right? I'm just throwing it. I've been advocating, and I kind of think Justin might agree with me, and maybe you do too, Matt, for a 5th official that is in the arena in the press box has a replay official. Right? I don't mind Toronto having a say in replays, but I want that official who is in the building and who can get the feel for the game, who sees the flow and able, just like the call and with the Blues had the call back a couple of weeks ago with the goaltender interference,
Against Seattle.
Right, against Seattle, where I think that had a lot to do with the Chicago one, where the league got blasted for that because the plays were kind of similar. That might have had something to do with it, maybe. I don't know. Just me thinking. But if you have a guy up there that's watching and seeing the play, maybe he calls down and says, hey, that wasn't as bad as you think it was. Or someone there that is able to, with the feel of the game or the flow or the energy inside the arena, instead of somebody who's 2,000 miles away in a computer room going, okay, yep, that's it. I agree with you, and it would be better for me to have that person in the arena, just like the NFL does. Their replay guys and NBA, their replay guy is the official on the ice. Toronto's they give them the signal, but that's it. They don't have a say in it, right? It's that guy on the ice or on the field that has to say. I'm not sure about the NBA how they do it. I don't like Toronto having as much of a say in it as they do. But even in that goaltender interference, it was the 2 officials on ice who have said, we thought, we didn't think that he would have stopped it anyways. Well, that's not the call for it, but that's just kind of the way I feel about it.
Well, it's like what Matt said. Matt was saying that the NHL officials are calling reactionary stuff. Like they're like, oh, it's like almost like when the fans get upset. Like there's a few times where I'll see the fans get upset and then the referee who didn't call something 5 seconds ago will throw his arm up and then magically it'll be a penalty. They're so reactionary. They're so indecisive with anything that they do. Like I said, I understand the human element, but it comes down to the fact that the NHL officials have been getting worse and worse and worse and worse year by year. And it's the same type of it's the same type of situations. We see the same type of goal interference stuff not being called. We see the same type of blatant trips in the open ice not being called. I understand the human element, but there's a time for human element and there's a time for just blatant ignorance.
Yeah, I agree with you about the officiating going down and down and down. And honestly, when you add more games, what do you think you're going to get? You're going to have more. You're going to have to hire more people, and I don't think the quality is going to be as good. And if guy, you want to put a fifth official in the press box right there. I mean, if the quality keeps dipping like that, can you really even find credible people to be in the press box? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I feel, especially when I would love to see how many games were played when you played Utah, right? How many games were played that night? If there was like 10 or 12 or 14 games, because that means that many officiating crews were out there, and probably St. Louis and Utah didn't get the top officiating crew. I can tell you that right now. So if that's the case where we don't have these grade A, if every officiating crew is inconsistent, then what do we really have? You know what I mean? I understand there's a human element, and it's so hard to judge these guys on that. But it's not just people playing a game. There's also gambling aspects of it. You're playing with people's lives right here, so that I don't know if that has anything to do with it, because I know Gary Bettman did go on CNBC and talked about how hockey has a lot of integrity, and he has no worries about any gambling issues with FanDuel, DraftKings, or Kalshi like the MLB has had and the NBA has had. But you don't know if there's a Tim Donahue situation like with the NBA. I'm not saying that officials are throwing games, but a lot of this has happened since they legalized gambling, in my opinion.
But it makes you wonder. Well, sorry, Guy, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I'm with Guy on this one. Like, this is why I've been so hard on the human aspect of things, because human aspect is like when you're like in the full playing style, and then like something happens and then you miss a call. That's human. Like, you make a mistake, okay? But when you're reviewing, when you're league reviewing stuff, and you see that it is blatantly against the rules to do something like a goalie interference, or how something should not be a penalty, like that's not human element anymore. That's just blatant ignorance. So that's where the human aspect gets lost for me, is the whole when the league reviews it kind of ordeal, and still blow it.
Well, again, that's the human aspect of it. The guys on the ice seeing what they see and going, oh my goodness, if he went down, it had to be this. And when they go and look at it, it's the, what do they call group think? The group think gets involved, right? And that is a human aspect of everything, the group think. By the way, there were 13 games that night.
Okay.
The Seattle game, that was the 8th. There were 13 games. How many went into overtime? 1, 2, 3, 4 went into overtime that night. So, and I do agree with you. And CJ Mathis, welcome to the show. I guess this is one of your guys, right? Because I remember he said, "Hey, Lips." So, he was like the first comment we had tonight. So I think I showed it on the screen there for you. I do think that I do question the gambling aspect of it, and the gambling does make me question some things, and I do understand where Justin is and how Justin gets so passionate and upset in this, but I do believe, I have to believe that the league in and of itself is not rigged, right? That the league isn't going that this team needs to win tonight and that team needs to win tonight and that team wins to win tonight. Yes, sir.
I want to say I'm not in the camp of it's rigged, but like you're saying, you have to question the betting aspect, because it's been a thing in 2 leagues. You have to question it, and with some of the stuff that we have seen this year and even previous years, you have to ask yourself, how do you come up with these calls? I mean, there's no way in my mind, like, I'm sorry, but there's no way in my mind that you could look at what Torpchenko did, or what he did, let's just say what he didn't do, because he didn't do anything. He stood his ground. How you can look at that and say that he maliciously hurt Logan Cooley. I mean, there's no possible way you can think that. And then even if there is a betting aspect, you have that type of situation happen, and it didn't even help the Utah Mammoth. They still lost. They still got shut out. So I don't know. It's always interesting. It's very interesting.
Well,
Well,
real quick, I think sorry, guy, but real quick,
no,
I
you're
think
fine. Go ahead, Matt.
the only thing hockey is very hard to rig. Like baseball,
Yeah.
if you have to get a certain amount of strikeouts, you can just throw meatballs down the middle and whatnot like that. But with
Mhm.
hockey, it's like, how could you rig it? I think only two
Yeah.
positions you could be able to rig it, right? If you're a goalie and you kind of let a couple slide by, right? Or
Mhm.
if you're an official and you just give a team maybe 6 power plays compared to two. You know, no, I'm not
Mhm.
saying that. I have no evidence on that, but I'm just basing it off of, like we said, there's multiple sports that this has happened. So, I mean, it does make you question everything, with everything. I agree, CJ, getting back to that point.
Mhm. I think I
Well,
think I think rigged, no, but I
No,
think
not rigged.
betting I think rigging, no, betting possibility though.
Especially
I
all the
really do.
prop bets too. All the prop bets that you have, like even something you could probably like have a statistician like rig shots on goal, where like
Yeah,
someone does a dump in and they count it as a shot on goal to get hit the over or vice versa. You know what I mean? So
which they
like
have
that
done
kind of stuff.
before.
Yeah,
Which they
yeah.
have done before.
You
So
could probably rig that.
yeah,
well, actually, for me, I think a shot on goal should be any shot that goes through the crease. A puck that hits the goalpost to me should be a shot on goal, right? Um,
Okay.
and I also think that, like for icing, if the puck goes through the blue, that's not an icing. If it goes through and doesn't
yeah,
go
it
in the
doesn't
net,
touch.
goes
Yeah,
back to the wall, that's not icing, right? I'd like to actually see the crease go back out to where it originally was, go back out where before they cut it off. It used to be a full semicircle. I'd like to see it go back to that a little bit more. And actually, well, do a double crease. Um, leave the circle where it is now, cut it out and kind of like not the same color blue, but a different color blue. That's an area that if the puck goes through that area, that's not a icing. Right.
I do kind of like that in a way, just because of the goalies. Like, if you ever like, you've seen instances where the goalies will just let the puck go, like it's in their vicinity. It should kind of be like the same rule that applies for like defensemen. So like, if they just give up on it or something like that, or they're in the vicinity to touch the puck and they don't touch the puck, it's not an icing. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same way like that you see it with goalies, because you'll see goalies just sit on the post and just make not touch it, and then it's an icing. I don't agree with that. I think if it's in their vicinity, they should play the puck.
I agree. Well, we're at that hour and a half mark, just a little bit over it. Matt, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Why don't you tell everybody about your pod and what you do and where they can find you?
Sure. I mean, I am on the Instigators Hockey Show. We're on every Wednesday night, 8:30 on YouTube. I think you see my Twitter handle or my social media at Lips94. Lips fucking trips. I post every day on TikTok, YouTube. I try to do at least 3 or 4 game recaps, keep up with NHL news, and I try to cover everybody around the league. Yes, of course, I am a New York Ranger fan, but I try to be as unbiased as I can, and hopefully you guys find out about me too today.
Oh no, I agree. I really enjoyed you. I think you're going to have Justin on next Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we're gonna try to work something out.
Yep. Well, you can have me on anytime. Just let me know. I'd be glad to come on your show. And if one of your other guys wants to come on ours, have them send me a message and we can work something out. I enjoy getting other people on. Any last thoughts? Any last thoughts you want to say before we cut out of here tonight, bud?
If I was a betting man, I'd take St. Louis over the Rangers this week. So and probably hit that over, guys. Just calling that one. So I mean, but don't come at me if you lose.
I don't want to stretch it out a little bit, but I did say to Matt that I wanted to ask this question, and you don't have to give us an in-depth response, but I kind of wanted to get what made you a Rangers fan? Like, don't get into a full like Harry Potter novel or anything like that, but kind of what made you get into content creation and what made you a Rangers fan?
Well, content creation, I've always had a mouth, and Lippolis is my last name, so that kind of runs right off the tongue with lips fucking trips because I got a big lip. But honestly, as a Ranger fan, I didn't get into hockey right away. I got into other sports as before that. When I was 12 years old, the Rangers were playing the Sabres for 2006 in the playoffs. they lost a heartbreaking game, and I was like, hey, that's me because my sports teams are horrible. So I'm a loyal, terrible sports team fanatic, and I stuck with them. And there's been some good moments, but there's been a lot of bad moments as well. And I think the Rangers are heading into some dark times. They're going to be one. I think they're in the worst situation in the league. Rebuild, prospect pool, and current roster construction. But you can hear all that on my YouTube, TikTok, and whatever.
All right, yeah. I just wanted to get that out. I should have asked you earlier in the show, but we kind of got right into things right away, and I just wanted to give you some time to get your story out there and tell us why you were a Rangers fan and why you kind of started doing what you were doing. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I want to say a big thank you to Ryan Green, Anthony Stewart, Kyle Mead, Alaska Kyle, Sean Roberts, my brother from another mother in Montana, who took me, who went trout fly fishing with me this summer. Had a great time. And Jason Nichols for putting some love in the air on Facebook. If you do it on YouTube, please, we appreciate you. I just can't see your names. And if you are new to us, please like us and follow us on Facebook or YouTube. We'd love to have you watch our show. We do a weekly show on Sundays, 7 or 8. It kind of depends on what's going on, Central Standard Time. And then we try and do one game reaction show a week. Sometimes we do 2. It all depends on what's going on. Me and Justin, I don't think we'll do Monday's game because I got some other stuff going on, or I might do it. And I don't know, Justin, if I do it tomorrow, would you be able to, or?
Yeah, I mean that, like I said, that's something we can discuss if you want offline. If you want to just pick some games, like I don't have an issue. You know my schedule. I'm pretty much good for anything. What you want to do?
Yeah, no problem, man. And please follow Matt Lips with Instigators Hockey, or follow him on Twitter at Lips _1994. CJ Matthews, thanks for joining us. We did have, I thought, really enjoyed the show. I thought we got a lot of good topics out there. I think we covered the majority of what I kind of wanted to talk about. I wanted to get in. There was one thing I kind of wanted to do when I talked, was like, what are your surprises at the quarter pole? Or and maybe we'll do that as a parting shot. We got a couple of minutes, I guess. Parting shot. What is something that surprises you, good and bad, at the quarter pole? And I'll let Justin go first.
Well, is this about our team, or is this about our team, or is this about just anything in general? Anything in general. I think, honestly, the most surprising part is the fact of what the standings are at right now. Like, look at the teams that are over exceeding expectations. You know, San Jose's playing good hockey. The Ducks are playing good hockey. They lead the Pacific. I think that's a massive surprise to many. I thought they were expected to be better, but they're over exceeding expectations in Anaheim. And then you have, teams like Florida, who obviously I knew would have a little bit of a fallback, but they're really down there. I thought Toronto would have a down year because they didn't have Marner. But I would say just the standings as a whole is just surprising, just to see how many teams that you expected to be bad are good right now. And the teams that are, you expect to be good are, a little worse off right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one other thing that really is shocking to me is the 2026 free agency market is gone. That was like one of the most hyped up things that everybody said for years. McDavid's going to be, Kaprizov, all these guys are going to be in there, and they all re-sign. And the top free agents are like Alex Tuch, who's going to be a good one, and Artemi Panarin are probably like the 2 top free agents now in 2026. So that was a little shocking to me because this trade deadline is going to be really interesting because now you had all these guys who are pending UFAs, and now they're not pending UFAs. So we'll see, because I think a lot of guys with term might get traded this deadline as opposed to rentals. But guess we'll have to see, right?
It'll be interesting trade deadline. Because me personally, like Guy said, I think with the amount of teams that are over 500, that's not going to stick because it's statistically impossible to have that amount of teams over 500. You're going to have teams that are going to fall off. You're already kind of seeing it with Chicago. They picked up a big win today. Again against it was Anaheim. They beat Anaheim today. So these teams that are you expected to be bad are going to trend downwards. Like the Pittsburghs, the Sharks. Chicago. Those teams are gonna they're gonna trend down. They're gonna come back down to earth.
I don't think so. I think Chicago makes the playoffs. I said Chicago and Montreal are 2 teams to watch out for. And San Jose, they might sneak in too because I don't think the Pacific's is that good to begin with. So Chicago will make the playoffs. I
Right.
told Toronto before the regular season. I said Toronto wasn't going to make the playoffs. I said that.
Well,
Me and Kotz got in a fight about that one.
for me, so I'm not surprised that Berube's system is falling apart in Toronto. I have said he was the wrong coach for that team from the get-go. But I mentioned earlier, unintended consequences. You talked about the free agency class of 26 being gone. That is an unintended consequence of the new CBA, which
Correct.
took away that extra year. I've talked about that with a lot of people, with some other people. That's why I think with Holloway and Broberg, why they haven't signed their extensions yet, because they're kind of like, I think the Blues and the players are kind of like figuring out, what do we want to go bridge or do we want to go for that extra year? And, this is where I'm going to be long term. So I think that has a lot to do with it right now. And then my surprise is just the way when I talked about it, how many teams are under 500 or over 500, and the topsy-turvy world of the NHL this season.
Yeah, crazy.
Are you still with us, Justin? Might have froze there for a second. Give him a second. He'll probably come right back. I'll wait until he comes back before we end the show. Sorry about that there, Matt.
No worries. No worries. I had a lot of fun here, guys, and appreciate you having me. Midwest nice. You guys are awesome. I mean, I guess you're more all the way west there in the Pacific, in Hawaii. But this has been this is truly awesome to be here, and it's gonna be a great hockey season. And I hope it's a good game between the Rangers and Blues on Wednesday or Thursday, I think, right? So should be fun. Should be a fun one.
There you go. Sorry,
what is it? Yeah. It lagged out for me. I was trying to say it before I got lagged out there. I was saying, Matt, can you just please glaze me and tell me how right I am about how Broberg is going to be so fantastic for this team for years to come? About how we just absolutely fleeced Edmonton on the offer sheets.
I mean, Edmonton was in cap hell and whatnot like that.
Yeah, they were.
You guys were able to swoop in. I mean, you're going to see with the cap going up, a lot of teams are going to weaponize cap space, and you were able to do that. And that's the price of having a great team. When you have a great team, you're usually pushed up against the cap, ceiling. So, you guys were able to swoop in. Great move on your part. And Edmonton was still able to make the cup last year, but now you're looking, they lost Corey Perry. I think that's a much bigger piece than let on. I didn't think he'd be as good as he is with the Kings right now. But, I mean, hey, listen, I think St. Louis management they're good at developing talent. You guys will be good in the long run. You're good at taking NHL, prospects, NHL maybe guys who didn't pan out. I can't say about that another franchise that I know is not very good at that, but we're not getting into that. But I think in the long run that this team has a lot of youth as well as veterans, and so if you do sell off, like I don't think you will, I think the Blues can really build something back up and be very competitive the next several years.
Very quickly, yeah.
And I think the Blues, for me, the way that I view it is I like Holloway, and I get it. It's only like a year and under a half here that we've had these guys, but the impact that these guys have brought to this team already for just getting here. Obviously, you have the new team bump. Holloway had a great year last year. He started off slow, but then picked it up. But Broberg is slowly coming. I think the Blues' number one defenseman with the way he's been playing, and I just look at that and I'm just like, man, how did Edmonton fumble this guy? Like they put this guy back down in the minors a couple times and then brought him up. He was arguably one of their best defensemen in the Cup final, and then they let him walk. I get it. He wanted to leave and all that, but like that was because of how they treated him and how they handled that situation. I think that they fumbled Broberg really bad.
They couldn't have signed either one of them. They didn't have the money to sign either one of them.
No.
That's what it came down to.
They could have signed Holloway. They could have matched Holloway.
They should have traded Bouchard. I mean, they should have traded Bouchard, to be honest with you. Bouchard is just, I think he's the most overrated player in the league. That contract is horrible. I think McDavid saw that he took less money, and they saw to give it to Bouchard. I mean, Bouchard should be a seventh defenseman that only plays on the power play. I mean, he's a good offensive defenseman, but again, when you're playing with McDavid and Draisaitl on the power play, how many points are you going to get just basically for free and whatnot? But I mean, you're right. Edmonton letting those two guys go to St. Louis, big mistake. But that's what happens.
They were in cap hell. They were in cap hell for sure. But they could have, to say that they couldn't have signed either one of those guys. What is not the whole truth, because they could have moved pieces.
Yeah.
They chose to go with Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner over having a young defenseman in Philip Broberg or a young winger in Dylan Holloway, and that was a mistake.
And you'll see how it pays out.
Yep. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much. It's been a fun time. This is Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, Binsing, for my co-host, Justin. Sorry.
You're killing me. No, you're good. Go ahead.
For
you
Justin, Eli, Scott, we want to say a big thank you to Matthew Lips. And I hope I say this right, Lippolis,
but it's okay.
Lippolis.
I still like you, Guy. Don't worry.
Yeah, I tried. For Matthew Lippolis from Instigators Hockey for joining us tonight. Justin, how do we end our show?
I think we got to ask the girls. Where are the girls at?
What are you wearing?
A Canadian tuxedo. And I'm a hockey player. Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.
Call them out.
Where are the boys? Where they at?
Oh, boy!
Hawaii Blues fan, we're bleeding blue with you. Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues! Let's go Blues!
This is Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, Binsing, your host of the BlueNote Fan Report, saying you got to know that I am bleeding blue with you.
And as always, it's Let's Go Blues.
We'll see you next time on the BlueNote Fan Report. Thank you, Matt.